Loading snacks.
Yo, what it do, snackers and snackettes? Welcome to episode 5, Snackin Hangin, Loading Snacks Podcast. It's your boy Gage. With me, as always, is the Zen.
I'm here with you always, homie. What's cracking?
No doubt, no doubt. Listen, before we get deep into what it is we got going on today, I just want to remind everybody to do us a favor. Hit that download/subscribe button on the podcast. Also, go check us out on YouTube if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button, give us a like, drop us a comment, share us with your friends. And don't forget to go and check us out on Instagram and Twitter. We're at Loading Snacks. Appreciate you. Yes. Now, today's episode, we're going to discuss a little something about this generation of consoles and how it is actually masterfully outpacing in its sales the sales of their predecessors from last generation of consoles.
Oh, okay.
So essentially, if you look at, we already know that there's a huge gap in sales totals between PlayStation 4 and Xbox One.
Right.
I'm gonna be real with you. I'm not even really considering the Wii U anymore. Like that joint's a lost cause.
Yeah, it's not.
And it's really, to be honest with you, I don't consider it part of this generation of consoles. In terms of when it came out in between the launches of these consoles and the last consoles. And
but technology-wise, it was a step back to last generation still.
Sort of. Like, in terms of power, it's more powerful than the PS3 and the 360. But in terms of catching up, in terms of everything else those things did, internet connectivity, like for real, being able to get on and play and like having HD, like really,
that was just the worst. The
Wii U is really what the Wii should have been when it originally dropped.
Yeah.
So we're not even going to talk Wii U, but we are going to talk PS4. We are going to talk Xbox One. We are going to talk PS3. We are going to talk PS4. And so, yeah, there is a huge gap between, yes, the PS4 and the Xbox One. That's not really what we're here to discuss. It's a symptom, I think, to a certain extent of what's happening. But what we're really here to discuss is, if you look at the sales of PlayStation 4 right now in its lifespan at just over 2 years out, and you compare them to the sales of PlayStation 3 at the exact same timeline from its release date, the PlayStation 4 is way outpacing the PlayStation 3. But the exact same thing is happening with the Xbox One as well. The Xbox One, if you look at day and date sales from release to where we are right now, and compare that from the release date of the 360 to where we are right now, or to where they were at the same time, like 2 years and a couple months in, the Xbox One is far outpacing the sales of the Xbox 360.
Okay.
So the question is, why is that happening? Because as we got near to the end of the last generation of consoles, analysts and people were coming out and saying, this is it. Consoles are done. People don't care anymore. They're not doing this anymore. They were acting like, the PC master race
was going to destroy all once again, reign supreme overall.
Yep.
And no,
people weren't going to go out and buy consoles.
Right.
And that is clearly
not the case.
Clearly not the case. So I kind of want to take an overall look at the state of things at the time of those releases and where we are now, and just kind of try to contrast and compare what it is. So we could try to kind of maybe put our hands on what exactly is causing this surge, I feel like you could say, in those sales. I mean, having listened to what we've said now, I mean, do you have a particular opinion on it at all? Is there something that stands out to you, or that you reason why that's happening?
First thing, all right, just Just gonna throw it out there. Just cause could it be in any way, shape, or form because of the economy? Because it was bad during the last time, and maybe who knows? Parents buy for their kids, stuff like that. Maybe couldn't afford to get them. Now that stuff is turned around, they can afford to go get them a PS4 or an Xbox One or something like that.
I mean, that's a possibility. I mean, you also got to consider that. I mean, we're talking those consoles dropped 10 years ago. Yeah. So, you know, people who were 10 then are 20 now and can buy their own consoles.
Very true. Very true.
You know what I mean? Now, and you know, there's always people who are in between, but maybe those people, like, you know, if you, like, for real, if you were even 17, if you were 7 or 8 when the PlayStation 3 or the Xbox 360 came out, now you're 17, 18, probably working, can buy your own console.
Right.
You're probably not in a position where you have kids, or you have kids that are old enough that you would need to buy them game system.
Right.
But at the same time, there's also, you know, the idea that the generation of gamers that we had last generation into this generation, if they're like me, they were already parents. And so now maybe you're a multiple console household, not just in terms of you play PlayStation and you play Xbox, but you have 2 Xboxes or you have 2 PlayStations because you don't want the kids playing on your system. You know what I'm saying?
Real talk. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Something like
I had two Xboxes, just like I have one in the bedroom and one downstairs.
Right. Yeah. You know, I don't even know. I can't even get in that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I had, but
we both had quite a number of them through the lifetime.
Yeah. I mean, that certainly is a good thing to look at, though, is maybe the difference in the economy. Is there anything else that you think stands out?
Actually, yeah. Last generation, we had all these new franchises come out over the past of these 10 years between Call of Duty blowing up, Halo blowing up, Assassin's Creed, all this stuff. Now that we're going to this new generation and they have these strong followers, I think people just don't want to wait and just make sure they're able to have it and have access to it the day it comes out.
I mean, that's another possibility. And, you know, I kind of gave it some thought. And there's probably a lot to that. Like, you know, there was some kind of overlap. You know, some of those franchises have built, say, PlayStation 2 going into PlayStation 3. People were looking for some of those. You know, a lot of, I feel like, the franchises that, say, Sony brought over from the 2 to the 3 were more of franchises that were designed for a younger audience, like a Jack and Daxter or, you know, something along those lines. I feel like the original Xbox had more games that were geared more towards older folks, stuff like Halo and stuff like that. And so when they came into this generation, they hit a little harder with that kind of stuff. But, you know, if you were a Halo fan, you wanted Halo 3. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sony brought brand new franchises when they crossed over into the PlayStation 3.
Oh yeah, Resistance, brand new out the bag jump. Uncharted, brand new out the gate, drop it. Yeah,
they went brand new and they went more adult. You know what I mean? And so maybe they hadn't quite. But again, the PlayStation 2 had been around for like 10 years. You know what I'm saying? So there were definitely
people. It was still rocking at that time too. When that 3 came, we couldn't stop the PS2.
Like, there were people who did grow up during that time who were like, maybe Jack and Daxter isn't my thing, so they got Resistance, or, you know what I'm saying, maybe Sly Cooper. You know, and they started to do the collections and stuff like that. Started kind of rein in on like nostalgia. I'm gonna tell you what I think. This is my perspective on it. Having worked retail during the period of time when those consoles released, I think that probably the biggest factor that's making the difference is high definition. So when we made the jump from like 360 to 1, PlayStation 3 to PS4, yes, there's a difference in graphic fidelity and power, but not the kind of jump that people felt like they got when they went from 2 generations ago into last generation. A lot of that wasn't so much the power and whatever. It was going from yellow, white, and red RC cables to component HD or into HDMI / Blu-ray.
Right.
But the major factor that's different from then to now, in my eyes, is that when those systems released, you gotta think about this. When the Xbox 360 came out, it was the first high def console ever released. It didn't even have HDMI, it just had component. Now, technically, the original Xbox could go up to 720p. So that's
right.
It wasn't 1080.
Right. It's still HD, but it's not the highest grain of it, right?
But when the Xbox 360 came out, people were buying TVs to make the transition to high definition. Most people at that time didn't have a high def TV. High definition existed. There were very few channels that ran high def. There was like ESPN and like Home and Garden and like Discovery Channel, and that was about it.
Right.
But most people had never had a high def TV and didn't have a reason to. Blu-ray didn't exist, so there was no movies or anything like that. Netflix was still a fledgling company. Like, we could really probably thank the Xbox in a large capacity for where Netflix is right now, because people didn't have Netflix. It wasn't something that you could get on your DVD player at the time. You know what I mean? Because DVD player.
Netflix going to the consoles, no matter which one you have. That thing going to consoles is, I guarantee, what spiked the whole online binge watching movement.
Yeah. So this is what I'll tell you. In my experience, somebody who comes in and was buying a 360 first time the day it released, they come out, they wait in line. You know what that was like.
We can tell that. We can talk about that story another time.
You first in line in the rain.
Yes, sir. Cold, fighting with the wife.
There were people who were buying their 360 and buying a television. They were spending $200+ on the console, $400+ on the console.
Easy.
$400 to $500, $600 on a television,
Easy.
Controller, and games. Most people didn't walk out the door unless they spent at least $1,000
and a protection plan.
Close to it.
Right? Yeah.
So think about that for a second. When we talk about how much a 360 cost when it came out versus how much the Xbox One cost when it came out, people spent $1,000 to jump in.
I see what you did there.
See what I did?
I saw what you did there.
To jump in, right? Not only that, I mean, to get on Xbox Live. I mean, people got new internet so they could be connected. You know what I'm saying? People didn't have broadband like that. So the amount of money that people actually spent at the time that those consoles came out was actually a lot higher than just the cost of the console and a couple games and the controller, right? And the ability to jump in, there were a lot of people who were just like, I'm not going to buy one until I'm ready to get a TV.
Right.
I'm not, you know what I'm saying? And of course, you had the people who were like, well, the Xbox came out a year early. I'm going to wait, see what Sony does, right? So then Sony enters the foray. They come out super expensive, $700, $600, right? People still don't have HD TVs yet. It's only been a year, right?
Right.
But people are buying them. But most people who are buying PlayStation 3s on release date, honestly, are buying them because it's the cheapest Blu-ray player you can get. Right? In my experience. Yeah, there are people who are buying it to play games. But that was kind of an afterthought, because at the time, Blu-ray had just essentially beaten out HD DVD.
Yeah, it's like the PS2 all over again. Diehard fans are going to get their PlayStation, and cheapest DVD player at the time.
Exactly.
Accompanied in with a CD player and a video game system all in one.
Now, the difference was that the price point of the PlayStation was still too high for most gamers. And most of them were still very happy playing PlayStation 2 or had jumped to 360.
Yeah, because PlayStation 2 was still pumping out games like they
no doubt.
Yeah, they weren't even slowing down yet a little bit. Yeah.
No doubt. Plus, PlayStation 3 was backwards compatible when it dropped.
Yes, it was.
Right? So people are still like, well,
I can hold on.
Compatible. I can keep my PlayStation 2, keep buying those games because I'm not going to lose those games when I get my PlayStation. So people didn't jump in right away and grab the PlayStation 3 because of the price, because of the Blu-ray, because of the internet connectivity they needed, and because 360 existed and was already doing a lot of what that system could do, and people wasn't willing to spend the money to jump in. If you compare that to where people are right now, everybody got HDTV. Yeah. So it's easy. All you really have to do now is buy the system.
Everybody got HD and broadband.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah. So I think a lot of what's making the difference is, you got people who, I'm ready to get a system. It's been 10 years. I haven't bought one in 10 years. Maybe I re-bought a PlayStation 3 or Xbox when they went to a Slim, or I had a red ring and I had to get another one or whatever it was.
Check. Mm-hmm.
But now PlayStation comes out and says we're coming out at $450. Xbox comes out and says we're coming out at $500. And people just jumped on it and started buying. Why? Because they didn't have to buy a TV too, to feel like they were getting their money's worth out of the system that they bought.
Very true. Right? Very true.
I mean, when you bought a 360, I mean, it had a component cable. You know what I'm saying? Like, it had the cable with all the colors.
Oh yeah. That thing's in the basement somewhere.
They redid it and put the HDMI on it. Right? When they did the Elite. Mm-hmm. Add the HDMI on it. When the PlayStation dropped their price,
and that was back when HDMI cords were dumb expensive.
Exactly. So the thing is, expensive. The cost of getting a TV and just getting into HD was high. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's a very, very valid point of way to look at it. Yeah.
I think that's probably the biggest factor. Like, there's no, I mean, set-top boxes didn't really exist outside of like TiVo. You know, like there's no Roku, there's no Apple TV.
And I think Google they had like Google TV came out in between then, like tried a little something.
Yeah, but that was still after the 360 was already out. The PlayStation 3 was already out.
Yeah, it was just TiVo.
The ability to get, I mean, eventually they started to make it so that like all DVD players were network capable. I mean, even then it was like you get one that's network, but then you got to put it near your thing, or you got to get a real long cord, or you got to try to buy one that's Wi-Fi. And if you buy one that's Wi-Fi, you pay like an extra $100 for that. Easy. You know what I mean? Like, remember when the 360 came out? You had to buy that $100 adapter
for the Wi-Fi.
Wireless.
Ridiculous.
You know what I'm saying? So think about it. It's like if you were buying a 360 when it came out, you paying the core price of that, plus another $100 for the Wi-Fi, plus you get the HD TV, plus you're trying to get another controller, plus you picked up a couple of games. Like,
and you probably needed a longer HD cord than a 3 feet.
Something, you know what I'm saying? People drop easily $1,000. You know what I'm saying? Just to get in the door.
Just to jump in.
Right. Just to jump in.
Just to jump in.
If you did it when you got a PlayStation 3, when they first came out, you was definitely spending like $1,500.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like back then, like Best Buy, Circuit City, which still existed at the time. Supposed to be coming back this summer. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
They would do deals where, like, if you bought this TV, you got an Xbox for such and such price. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Same thing with PlayStation. Sony would package their TVs and
with the PlayStations,
together. You were getting a really good deal. That's how a lot of people did it. But you was still spending like $1,400 or something like that.
Yep.
You might have been getting your PlayStation for free. You still was spending more than it would cost you to spend $450 now to get a $500.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When you couple the fact that, people a little older and got some money to spend now.
Mm-hmm.
The economy is a little bit better too for people.
These new franchises have grown to become amusement park attractions now and stuff like that.
Yeah. Like, I just think the factors are I like part of the reason why this is something that I felt like we should talk about is because I can remember when the PlayStation 4 originally came out, they were selling, like, they had no major release games, like they had no AAA titles, none of their major franchises or anything like that to come out with it.
Was Second Son a launch title? Or was that came out like a month later?
Yeah, it came out later the following year. Like, it dropped in November, And we didn't get Second Son until like the following like March or June or something like that.
Okay.
But even Sony execs like Shuhei Yoshida's like, I don't know why the joint's selling like it's selling. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people attributed it to, well, Microsoft made a lot of mistakes at their
E3. They did.
And they did.
I believe that was the initial first day probably push.
It's definitely part of it.
Yeah.
It's definitely part of it. Plus the Xbox One was priced higher.
Yep.
People claim they didn't want the Kinect camera, but
that was a big thing.
Sony couldn't figure out why they kept selling out of their PlayStation Eye camera. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like if you look at the big picture, you can't just look at the console and the console sales. You almost have to look at the attachments and the attach rates, what people were doing at that time, and just the difference in where we were as a society in terms of our technology. I mean, it's 4K time now. You know what I mean?
Good.
8K, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Forget 8K. Yeah.
It's an easier transition for most people. I know I specifically bought a HD TV. Once they announced the 360, I bought an HD TV. Like, well, I need one anyway. My TV's now. I did it. I got a good deal, but I did it before the system came out.
I remember.
Right? I did it a few months ahead of time.
Right.
But I did it in preparation for the fact that I knew that the 360 was coming out, that it was going to be HD, and I wanted to take advantage of it.
Right.
I knew that the original Xbox could do some HD, but I didn't have a way to display it.
I'm trying to remember. Did I have my TV when the 360 came out? When I got my 360?
I don't think so, dog.
I don't think I did either.
I don't think so. I think you got it after the fact.
Yeah, because I got mine when that's right. I got mine when Tony was in France. That's when I got mine. Yes.
So
yes. And that thing changed my life. Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Yes,
I remember being like, "Welcome, sir."
Yes, I remember.
Welcome to the high life.
Yes.
The high life.
Whew.
I don't know, man. I think that's probably honestly the biggest factor that those game systems actually ushered in
HD as a whole.
Most people into HD. TV didn't do it itself. Again, there wasn't enough to watch. Like ESPN deciding they were going to be in HD was probably something that propelled a lot of people. But having your games and your game system running it and being able to play your movies on it and have it up convert or whatever. You know, like the 360 just had a regular DVD player in it. They added that HD DVD player after the fact.
Big old brick.
Yeah, side brick.
Yes.
Had a DVD player and a side joint. You know what I'm saying?
Need to bring that thing on the show. Show it to y'all.
Oh, I can go. I got a couple of them.
I had one. That was it.
I mean, they work. What you want?
I got to see if mine still work. I got to see. Then I got to see if I can find an HD DVD.
Okay, I can already say you don't do HD DVD. I got tons of them.
They're somewhere in the basement. They're somewhere down there.
Hey, dog, I got tons of them joints because when they stopped making them joints was like, I don't know, $2 on Amazon.
Yeah. I remember because you snatched up like the Matrix trilogy.
Yeah,
for like a penny or something.
Yeah, like this jump's crack. I'm getting this right now. Yeah, man. I mean, I think that's probably the biggest factor, right? Is that I think people were more prepared to take advantage of what these systems could do. They already had HDMI cables at home. Matter of fact, they put HDMI cables in the boxes with these.
Now, right, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They didn't do that on the whole point.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah, we putting the HDMI on the back of the system. You know, if you want to get that. Matter of fact, when the PlayStation 3 came out, it didn't come with any high-def cables at all. It didn't even have component cables. Yeah, they were selling you a Blu-ray player with no high-def. Yep. You had to buy a cable. You had to buy an HDMI cable. You probably didn't buy one because you already had one. I probably looked out. But
you did. No, you did because Toya got the joint for me for my birthday. And she had reached out to you being slick, and y'all put it together. Y'all put it together.
Yeah. Hooray me. Hooray,
Yes, sir.
Toya.
That,
Good
that,
job.
that's
Back there, Toya. Good job.
good job. Oh, she
Right
yeah,
hand.
she knows. No, but
That's
yeah.
good.
So that's why I do remember having cords when I got it, because
Yeah,
yeah,
because
okay.
they didn't come with it. So again, just the expense was so much higher than the base consoles are now. Even though the game, matter of fact, at that point, people was like, "What you mean the games are $60?" Because everything had been 50 up to that point.
Yeah, but they jacked it up
All the
10.
games jumped $10 in price. It was a lot to go through. It was a lot to deal with. I know I walked away with at least 3 release titles.
Yeah, I grabbed 2. I
I
grabbed
got
that.
like the 360.
Yeah, I got that. I remember I grabbed the Perfect Dark and the Need for Speed Most Wanted? The one that came out on launch day?
I don't remember if it was Most Wanted or not. I know I got Perfect Dark and Condemned. God dog.
Yes, I got those 2. And I remember I got what's the name? Y'all got me the Metal Gear Solid 4 joint for the PlayStation when I got it.
Yeah. I mean,
That bad boy sitting right cheap.
my PlayStation 3, I ended up getting Heavenly Sword,
Mm-hmm.
Uncharted, or maybe not Uncharted right then. Couldn't have been Uncharted then. I definitely had Heavenly Sword
Yeah.
at that point. Oh, I had like Sony had a basketball game that was their own game. Yeah, like NBA Tonight or I don't know, something like their MLB show.
Yeah.
Like their own NBA joint. It wasn't live.
No, it wasn't that.
It was their own joint. I'll find it. I'll
I
find
gotta
it,
look it up. Yeah.
and I will show it to you.
Yeah, but still, my PlayStation, my PS3 is still my baby.
Yeah,
So I got that last fully backwards compatible one. This
your
thing,
PS2 still your baby, but you don't need it no more.
not because I still have this one.
Well, I just found my PS2, my brick PS2, and my what was that joint called? The bouncer.
Woo! Why was that not co-op?
I don't know, dog. They stunk it down.
But Square, that was a good one.
Yeah,
Y'all might want to think about putting that one back in that rotation. That was a good one.
mistake. They made a mistake.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. I mean, I think that is probably the biggest factor in why these are selling so well.
I mean, sitting here talking. I think all of them are factors, but just listening to it and sitting there and rethinking about all that stuff, I do agree. That probably was overall the biggest factor, jumping in to HD with these consoles that were HD.
Yeah. I mean, that was really the best way to do it. Everybody knew that. But I can remember there being a lot of people who were like, nah, I mean, I'm not playing in HD. And I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You know what I'm saying? And people coming in and like buying HD TVs, like, yeah, first thing I'm gonna do when I get, because again, at that point, there was still almost nothing you could watch if you had regular cable. If you had satellite, like if you had DirecTV, Dish Network, you could get some, a few HD.
Yeah, there are a couple HD channels down their list. Yeah.
Regular cable? Nah, man. He was begging. So really the largest amount of consumable content that existed in HD was in the form of video games. Period.
Yeah.
They had the content, they had the entertainment. That was pretty much it. So if you had it, even if you already had an HD TV, one of the only ways you could actually take advantage of the fact that you had a high def TV was to get a game console so you could see high def.
Yeah. After that came the Blu-ray and HD format battle. And those were still expensive at the time.
They were again, like when PlayStation 3 came out, the cheapest you could get any other Blu-ray player for was $1,000.
I remember that too. That
was the cheapest Blu-ray player you could get. And the PlayStation came out at $700. And people who had been wanting to get a Blu-ray player were like, nope, I'm gonna get a PlayStation. And that's what they did. They bought a PlayStation and they bought that remote control.
Makes sense.
Done. You know what I'm saying? And Sony was giving you like 10 Blu-rays when you bought that joint. Like they was giving you free Blu-rays.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Like you could send in or get them in the mail or know what I'm saying, whatever it was.
Oh yeah, they was pushing that. Yeah, it was pushing that. Yeah.
Blu-ray, and it was the best Blu-ray player on the market because it was one of the only ones like that actually had Wi-Fi and had Ethernet port on it. And you needed that because you had to update Blu-ray players, which was the issue a lot of people was running into. Like people spent $1,000, $1,500 on Blu-ray players, and them joints ended up being bricks because they stopped supporting them. They didn't have ways to update them because they didn't have Ethernet ports on them. So you had to go online and download the update and put it there or get a USB stick.
Yep, plug it in, all this crazy stuff.
You didn't have to do any of that with a PlayStation 3. The joint was just going to get its updates automatically. The joint had Wi-Fi on it. Like, it was the most unstoppable Blu-ray player on the planet.
Yeah.
And they really tried to do the exact same thing they did with the PlayStation.
With the PS2, yeah. Yeah, with the DVD player.
It just didn't work as well because the price was too high. You know what I'm saying? So, truthfully, I think that's the main reason. I think that's really what it is.
Yeah, they learned this time around, did not put that price point up there. They put that thing back down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they could afford to, though. The difference in you can buy a Blu-ray player for $100.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you paying for a bit of a computer now when you buy it, and that's, mostly what it is.
Right.
But I think that's probably the biggest factor. You know what I mean? I don't really think there are other factors, but I think that's probably the biggest factor in why you see such a huge gap
between them
sales. You know what I mean? Especially in PlayStation, because I think there's a double hit there. I think there were people who were PlayStation people, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2. Xbox came out early, did high def first. People tried to wait, couldn't wait long enough. Eventually jumped on Xbox. PlayStation 3 dropped, and the price was
too high.
So even people who didn't, get an Xbox right away, saw what the price was of the PS3 when it came out, and was like, nope, grab the 360. And they ended up dealing with franchises like Gears of War and Halo and whatever. And eventually, they ended up getting PS3s, which is why I think eventually PS3 caught up with how many 360s there were out there.
Right. Once the price came down and, they do different versions of it, slimmer version and
exactly. But most people,
power.
I would say now, are PlayStation people. Most people's, who are in just under our age range, you know what I'm saying? Probably the biggest buying group between, say, like 18 and 32, their first console was probably PlayStation 1. You know what I mean? And they've been PlayStation people whole time. Like the way we were Nintendo people, they were PlayStation people. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that part of what happened going into this generation was also people missed being PlayStation people, or they started to become PlayStation people again towards the end of the PS3 life cycle because of the price drops or whatever, and we're just like, I miss it. I'm back. I'm trying to stick, you know what I'm saying, with what this is. I think that's the other part of the surge that we see, not just in terms of the gap between PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, but just in terms of how many PlayStation 4s are out there.
Are being sold right now, currently,
Again, you also got to consider that, like, the United States is a little bit behind with HD TV at the time. But now, way more people are caught up in terms of internet and high def. And so the sales of the consoles that have just released make a lot more sense when you look at it on a global scale, because there are way more people who are ready to actually make use of the technology that's built in. Way more people by comparison.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think the sales that they have are going to, I don't think they will continue to outpace by the same gap. I think that eventually it will slow down.
Oh yeah.
And it will catch up to what it was, and it will be more like what it was. I don't necessarily think we're going to see way more consoles sold, period, or total overall, than we saw last generation. I just think that in this first couple of years, we're seeing so much more of it so much more quickly because of factors like that.
No, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. Yeah, it's going to die off. Like, everybody's not going to keep buying consoles. Like, yeah.
But you know what else I think is a little bit funny?
What?
And I said I wasn't going to bring up the Wii U. But I am going to bring up the Wii. part of the reason why I'm bringing the Wii up is because the Wii was essentially the best-selling console of all time. You know what I'm saying? Like in terms of price point, the Wii got people who never played games to play games. The Wii got people who would never buy a game system, even for their kids, to buy a game system.
You know, you cannot stop Wii Sports.
Right. But it introduced kids who might have never gotten a game system from their own parents to the game system. And then the Wii became garbage because it was all shovelware.
Yeah.
And those people 10 years ago who are 15 now still want a game. And so I do believe that Nintendo is responsible for actually creating a lot of households that now feel the need to have a game system in their home that didn't before, that never would have taken the plunge at $300, $400, $700, but took it at $199, $250 with the free game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That got introduced to gaming, period. Video gaming, period, that otherwise wouldn't. And I'd be willing to bet that there are a lot of people who bought a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One, but mostly PlayStation 4s, based on the fact that they had a Wii. Probably didn't get a Wii U. You know what I'm saying? Skipped the Wii U. Maybe ended up going from the Wii when it didn't have any games left, or they were kids. I mean, a lot of parents went like, I want to get something for my kids. I don't know if an Xbox or a PlayStation is the right thing for them, but I think I'm going to start them off with a Wii. Well, if those kids were 5 or 6 or 7 then, those kids are 15, 16, 17 now.
Yep.
Right? And so when they were 10 or 11 or 12, their parents may have taken the plunge and been like, well, I'll go ahead and get you a 360 now, or I'll go ahead and get you a PS3 now.
Yeah.
And then this comes out. But again, there's a possibility that those kids or those families, those people would never have had a console if it wasn't for the Wii.
No, the thing about it, the Wii was in retirement homes. It's in office buildings, like people work at. Like that thing was everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, as a matter of fact, the Wii is probably responsible for a lot of Connect sales because the Wii being in nursing homes and them using it to help people do motion and stuff like that, the Connect kind of began to do the same thing.
Oh, definitely.
And if it hadn't been for the Wii and the price point of the Wii and them being able to get in and see that there was a possibility for something like that.
And Wii Sports being included in it.
Exactly. I don't think, you know what I mean? I don't think a lot of those Connects, I don't think a lot of those Xboxes go into a lot of those places. I don't think they ever make it into those nursing homes or into those medical facilities and things like that, even with all that it could do. So, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it, even, you know, look, Microsoft and Sony both said we want Nintendo to be around. We need Nintendo because Nintendo introduces people to games.
Yeah, and they're some of the most innovative game and console creators. Period.
I mean, look, that's a whole other debate. There was a time when I felt the same way, and then I realized recently, like they just really had, like they were innovative with their controllers, and that mattered.
Oh yeah.
But it doesn't now. That just doesn't anymore. And that's why I think they're in the hole they're in right now.
Yeah.
I just think for the most part, as far as the controller is concerned, what can be done has been done. We've gotten to the point where there's touch on controllers, screens on control. Like we had that, like, you know, touch screens are a regular thing. Everybody's got one. You know what I mean? So you have to look into other avenues to do it, and I would go out on a limb and say that everything else that Nintendo has tried that wasn't a traditional controller outside of motion was not successful. Power Glove, not successful. Stuff like U-Force, not successful. Power Pad, not successful. Like anything they did, probably the best joint they ever did was the NES Advantage, which was just a big ass joystick controller. That joint was tight though. Everybody wanted an NES Advantage, bruh. That joint ain't do nothing.
Nah.
It was just a joystick, big buttons, but it felt like the arcade. The arcade was popping.
Yeah.
That was I mean, you know, that's they got great games, go. That's they got great games.
Yeah, they just gotta get their online together.
Real talk, I'd be perfectly happy with Nintendo being like, we're not doing this console thing no more. We're gonna put our games on everything. Just go to Sega route. Here you go, here you go, here you go. Put Mario here, put Mario here, put Mario here, put Zelda here, put Zelda here, put Zelda here, put it on mobile. I'm done. Because I don't really want to buy another console. And word on the street is whatever they got coming is probably gonna work with a PlayStation 4 and an Xbox One anyway.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's tricky, bro.
That's crazy.
But it's probably a smart move for them. It's probably a really smart move for them.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see what's coming with that.
We're gonna get ready to get out of here, folks. But do us a favor, let us know what you think, what the factors in the differences. And certainly feel free to sound off on the differences between the PS4 and the Xbox One and why you think one's outselling the other. That's a perfectly okay argument to continue to have. But yeah, drop us a comment, shoot us an email,
please.
loadingsnacks@gmail.com. Send us questions, show ideas, anything like that. You can certainly send me something specifically. I'm Gage, Gage, .loadingsnacks@gmail.com. You can reach Sin the same way, sin.loadingsnacks@gmail.com.
Yep.
So please forward us your questions. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to click subscribe. Don't forget to give us a like. Don't forget to share us. We greatly appreciate you. We're out. Toodles and Loos. Time to go play this beta, bruh.
Woo!
This beta, bruh.
The division. It's going
division. Yeah. Yeah. People are waiting for us. Let's do that.
Let's go.
One.
Loading snacks.